For founders who are like super busy and you don't have time to like make collateral, you don't have time to like build out a very formalized sales playbook, we basically will extract all of these things for you and kind of let you put those into agents that help you automate parts of your sales process.
We are here with Isabelle from Cedar. We're going to learn a little bit about Cedar Copilot, which is the AI native superhuman for sales. So excited to talk a bit about that. Of course, Isabelle, we obviously have met each other when we were in YC together. So excited to, catch up.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me on the webinar, guys.
What is Cedar Copilot? What are you working on? And who are the users? Like, what is the problem that you're trying to help people solve?
So I'm Isabelle, co-founder of Cedar. We basically help both account executives, so people doing sales, and founders doing sales from companies like Cursor, Mintlify, Greptile, and Warp, and recently Mastra. And we basically help them execute and build and execute self-improving playbooks to help move deals from demo to close more effectively. What that means is we're like squarely middle of funnel, so basically helping you from the point where you take that first demo all the way till you close a deal. And the way that we do that is we'll connect to kind of all of the places where you're talking to your prospects. So whether that's meetings, emails, Slack, your CRM, we handle all the data management in the middle. We put it where it needs to go. And then on top of that, we'll run all your personalized agents that are all backed by master agents that basically will do things like draft follow-ups, plan multi-threading, coach you on deals, like hand off to engineering, all of these different things, so that you get to stay perfectly on top of your pipeline and make sure that no deal is slipping through the cracks when you get kind of a high volume of deals in the pipeline. And kind of like at a team level, when we're operating in multiplayer mode, we're basically giving you a data layer and a workspace that helps you kind of build a closed loop between the data that's going through your sales pipeline, like your meetings, and then your actual process. So what that means is like for founders who are like super busy, and you don't have time to like make collateral, you don't have time to like build out a very formalized sales playbook, we basically will extract all of these things for you and kind of let you put those into agents that help you automate parts of your sales process, like meeting prep or collateral creation and certain things like that. I'd love to kind of show you guys a little bit around Cedar.
Yeah, we'd love to see a demo. And then, we do have a technical audience, so I'm sure we're going to ask, you don't have to show us all behind the curtain, but would love to talk a little bit about how it's built and how people who are potentially thinking about building agents of their own might attack the problem.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we've been powered by Mastra from day one, so definitely have a lot to share there. Yeah, so what you kind of see first when you go into Cedar is just like a typical kind of org pipeline view, like what you're used to seeing in your typical CRMs. Except me, as someone doing sales, I don't actually manage any of this information myself. So all of this is kind of managed by our agent based off of my playbook. And you basically get this like intelligence layer on top of every deal. So if, as an example, we go into Mastra's deal, you can basically see a couple things. We have this like set of agents that are like running on top of every deal. Like an agent that's like giving me an overview of like the things I need to care about the most in this deal. Like an agent that's potentially saying like, hey, you might need to multi-thread in this deal if you're talking to someone who isn't a decision maker, certain things like this. And then you kind of get the ability to go like deeper into any deal, see like all of the things that have happened in that deal automatically managed for you, and let the agent kind of take care of updating your CRM and keeping all the data clean there. And then you can come and like ask any question here, like what were his main pain points? And then basically all our agents are both they have all the context of every single deal kind of in one place. And then they also know everything about the way that you kind of run your deals and can help you do things kind of according to that. So here's an example where it's going through all the meetings I've had with Josh and kind of pulling out his main pain points around deal management. To kind of like go deeper into like the data layer that I think kind of powers a lot of the more powerful things we can do is essentially, like I mentioned, as you're just like going about your deals, we're like basically extracting all of this like intelligence around like what it is that you do, what your product does, who are you selling to, what are the main objections that you get, all of this like sales intelligence and product intelligence so that you don't have to sit there and like compile kind of all of these playbooks for our agents to be able to do things for you. So an example of like what we can do with this is now that like my agent like knows everything about our product, right? And like it knows everything about who we're selling to, I can just come in and say something like, I want to build a Cedar one pager. Like I just want this piece of collateral because like I need to start sending it to prospects kind of after that first meeting or whatever it is. And so what the agent's going to do here is it's basically going to like go through with me, say interactive design mode, and it's going to help me build the branding. It's going to look into this like knowledge base for things like what is it that my product does? Like how do we position? Like how do we quantify the ROI of the product and all of these things? So it's kind of going to go through and start doing some of that and taking me through that. And let's see, this is the content plan. Here it'll generate like style previews to basically tell me like how I want to brand it. I did pull up a few examples just so you don't maybe have to wait for it to go all the way through it. But as an example, this is actually like a custom site or deck that it built for our deal with Mastra, where it basically went through. It took kind of all of the pain points that we heard from Mastra and put it together in this like custom deck that just like kind of goes through our features, goes through what that person cares about the most, the ROI that we hear, all of these different things. And like all of this is just super customized. It even knows that we use Mastra. So it says Cedar's agents run on Mastra's primitives. But essentially like all of this is like super customized to each deal that we're working and everything about our product and the way that we write and these types of things. Another example is that one pager that I started generating there. I kind of pre-generated one, but it's basically pulling out information like, hey, like I said I wanted to generate this for sales leaders. So it's pulling out things like, hey, the top 25% of your reps close 60 to 70% of your revenue. Like that's the gap that we handle. And like, this is how we do it. These are kind of the steps. This is the ROI that we've hit. And then like it linked my Calendly or whatever it is. The way that our agent does all of these things is like really interactive, kind of helping you shape your sales process the way that you want. And the kind of last thing I'll show is we did start and we still are like a full email client. If you hate email, that's kind of like the first pain point that we started with. So every single like thread that you go into, you can find a good example. Essentially, we'll be able to like pull up the deal on the right.
Yeah, you're speaking my language when you said if you hate email, because that you just described me.
Email. Yeah, like I guess the way that we play into email is like, if you want an email client that knows everything about the way that you write emails out of the box and basically tells you what you need to care about for your inbox so you don't have to look at everything, categorizes things and organizes them, that's kind of actually how we started. And that's our email quality is actually still one of the best things about our product that users will share with us. So yeah, that's kind of a high level. I'd love to hear any questions if you want me to go deeper into anything on the technical side or the product side. Would love to answer anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, and I hadn't seen, we've obviously talked quite a bit in the past, but I haven't seen like the ability to build deck assets or whatever to send to customers.
That's
I think
really cool.
That is something that I used to do, and I still do a lot of product interviews that often end up being sales calls. Typically, we start talking with folks who are building with Mastra, and oftentimes they need other stuff that we have. So I would very frequently have a call where I do some discovery, and then we'd have a follow-up call where I basically would build a customized deck for that their use case. And that was kind of tedious, right? Of course, you can reuse templates, but I still had to manually go in and fill in a lot of information. So even that, little bit of time saved each time where you're saving 15 to 30 minutes before and after meetings, I think is pretty incredible. Abhi, you have any questions? Otherwise, I have some technical ones too.
Last time you guys were on the show, Cedar was agentic front-end framework.
Yeah.
And so pivoted again, and I think this is really cool. It takes everything that you've been building so far and then, applying it to something that's very needed. So I just want to say congrats. It's awesome to see the growth.
No, I appreciate that. We actually took basically we had this horizontal open source solution and we just basically verticalized and applied the same thing. All of this uses the same, all of us stuff from our previous pivot are using this product, but kind of just only for us. And I feel like something we learned kind of working in a horizontal way was very much how do we build the best AI native experience for users that's intuitive and actually because we're kind of working with people who, like what Shane said, it's you're trying to save 15 minutes and focus every here and there throughout your day. And like, so what we're optimizing for is like, how do we help you execute as fast and as effective as possible? So that's actually an interesting throwback to last time we were on this webinar.
So we do have a question from the chat. So Sebastian asks, is this laser focused on the deal pipeline, or do you plan to expand on these primitives to other fields and business processes?
That's actually a really good question, and actually very core to kind of the configuration of our product. So I'll show this one screen where essentially the way that our product works is we're actually fully horizontal, but we're like verticalized in that we're selling specifically to sales. But like every event that goes through our product, so every email, every meeting, everything gets categorized, and then it gets executed on using your playbooks that are for that category. So what that means is like the one we focus on most is deals. And that is like in a sales context, right? But like, for example, I have one that's like event partnerships. And I also use it for like customer success and things like this. And we have customers that use it for like fundraising and all of these types of things. So actually the product itself is fully horizontal, but we're just verticalized for like GTM purposes and kind of for focus in that way.
And one more question from Sebastian. If it's not too technical, will there be a headless API and some syntax sugar around tool calls to build complex human-in-the-loop UI?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, kind of like a headless entry point to our outputs. We've had customers ask us for that before, which is like, hey, can I plug this as an MCP into Claude? Can I text it over Slack? Can I text it over iMessage? The MCP is actually one that we're working on right now. The texting over iMessage is something we're working on soon, where like if you want any context of like, what is it I have to do today, or what's going on in this deal, or like what is like waiting on me, whatever it is, can just like text Cedar and it'll be able to pull that information for you.
Yeah, I could see a really comprehensive, for me, I would love to do it in Slack, right? But I think for everyone else, maybe it's text, Telegram, whatever, wherever they go is their natural place to send messages. But I could definitely see that being a use case where I would definitely want it to come into Slack or whatever and be able to just pop in a quick question. And then, of course, oftentimes go to the dashboard, but maybe not every time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do we bring things to you when you need them?
Could you go back to the graph view? I wanted to look at that again.
Yeah, anytime I see a graph view and immediately want to, double click on that or zoom into it.
Yeah. So what is this representing? Is it just a knowledge base?
It's a lot of different things. So one is knowledge base, which is like, hey, like honestly, the best knowledge base for any product is the way that it's pitched in sales calls. So like from all of your meetings where you're pitching your product, like we can actually figure out what your product does pretty well. That's one piece of it. The other piece is, for example, mapping your sales process. So like the way that we can figure out how you do things and automate them the way that you would do them is like for all of your deals, like you usually do probably the same set of things, right? Where you're like, maybe after the first meeting, I send like a value deck. And then after like whatever, I like do all these things. And then maybe after I sign them, I send an order form, right? So it's like, how do we map your sales process from your previous and ongoing deals so that we can actually do things the way that you would rather than these generic solutions that come with a lot of just general like Claude or ChatGPT workflows. So that's one thing. Another thing is like more intelligence from calls. So like, what are the objections that are coming up? How are you handling them that works and how are you handling them that doesn't work? And like kind of a lot of these, like who are your competitors and like how do you position against them? Like how are you positioning pricing? Like all of this intelligence that comes from you leading calls and running deals that comes through our system.
Well, what about the multi-threading use case where you have to talk to like 5 different people? Are they reflected on a graph like this that you talk to them, or they exist, like the people side?
So the multi-threading agent that we have just runs like in the context of every specific deal. And basically it's an agent that's like fully configurable. My multi-threading agent is watching out for deals where I'm talking to someone who isn't a decision maker and it's single threaded. And because we know everything about that deal kind of in one place, then what it'll do is like if one of those things trigger to be true and it was a good fit, it'll go and do the research it needs to tell me who I need to reach out to and even draft like an intro email that like I can send out. So that's kind of like a per deal agent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. So who's using this right now besides us?
I'd say there's like 2 main ICPs we're working with right now. One is AEs at like larger companies. So we're working with companies like Reptile, Mitlify, Cursor. And then one is like, and where I actually think we're seeing like very, very strong product fit is like teams that have like maybe just founder-led sales or 1 to 2 sales hires where like they're really just like don't have the time to put together all of these playbooks, and like things are super busy because they're like very lean, and we kind of will like come in and just like take a lot of that lift from them while keeping the deals close to them. And I think like a lot of the like intelligence layer works really well with founders who are like actually still improving at sales, right? So it's like, how can we close the loop of like, maybe you lost this deal, like let's debrief it and then like put that intelligence into your next deal to make sure that like you didn't lose it for the same reason or whatever it is. So, yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on the webinar and letting me share some about Cedar.
What's the best way for people if they're just, we have a lot of people that listen to the show afterwards. If they're not watching the screen right now, what's the best way for them to go? Is it cedarcopilot.com?
Yes, cedarcopilot.com. Isabelle at cedarcopilot.com. Isabelle from Cedar on LinkedIn. Probably any of those would work well.
All right, see you, Isabelle.
Have a good one, guys.
Would you like to be a guest on the show? Visit mastra.ai/guest. Do you have a hot take, a problem you cracked, a cool product, or a demo worth watching? Share them right here on Agents Hour.